there. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Coda Country Chats. I'm Leigh, and today I'm joined by Garrett Bradford. How are you today, Garrett?
I'm doing fantastic, Leigh. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on.
Absolutely. And we're recording this episode on January 17th, the day that you just released a new single, Watching You Burn. And tell me a little bit about the single, and then we'll get into the project that it's involved with. I'd love to hear more about the song itself.
Yeah, well, that song is one that I wrote with a couple of buddies of mine that live in Tennessee, and it's kind of it's a little bit outside the box, at least from what I've released so far. I don't have a lot of love songs or even breakups, and this is kind of like a mixture of the two. But it's just about loving somebody who maybe doesn't love themselves so much, and realizing that you're not going to be able to help them out, and that you got to get out of there yourself before you go down with the ship. And actually, pretty personal about a situation that I had in my life. So it's definitely one of those that's like a little hard to sing sometimes, less and less now, but at the time we wrote it, which was about a year ago, it was still really fresh, and I didn't know whether it would. It's one of those songs that's funny because it's hard to tell which songs people are going to like, and because when you write them, you're not a good judge. You're not objective at all. And everybody kept telling me this song. They were like, "This is one of your best. This is one of your best." And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna lead the album off with it as the first single, and like we really gotten some good feedback. So I'm glad I listened to them, because I would have probably messed it up if I would have gone with my thoughts.
You know what's funny though? I'm so glad that you said that you were like hesitant to set it as the lead single. But it really is like such a relatable song. And I'm glad, because that was going to be my next question too, about like if it was a personal journey for you, just because I like to know, if that's just a song and a topic that just comes up, or if it's something that you've lived and learned. And oh man, well, I hate to hear that, but it sounds like you're on the up and up, and it brings a good song out of it. So
that's why it got a good song out of it. I mean, it's probably all worth it now. I like to say all my songs are pretty personal, except for the murder ballads. I'm not a murderer, so
good to know. Good to know. Well, okay. And then let me ask you this, okay? Because Watching You Burn, and I'm going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and talk about Honkiest of Tonkers, right? Yeah. Very different. Like you were just saying, you don't really do many ballads, love songs, breakup songs, that kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about your comfort zone as far as like what you normally write. Tell me some of your topics that you normally bring to the table when you go to a write.
I like, what I write and what I release. I write a lot of stuff, a lot of different kinds of songs, and even really personal ones, but I've tended to up to now release the things that I thought were more unique, because I figured like nowadays there's so much music out there, and I just wanted to have stuff that stands out, that felt like, oh, that's Garrett, and I'm still figuring that out as I go along. But like Honkiest of Tonkers, which is the title track off the record, is definitely one of those songs. It's just so outside the box, and it's funny and fun, and I love that kind of song. They're still out there, but I feel like it's less and less. When I listen to old country, which I love, there's a lot of like lighthearted, funny, semi-self-deprecating songs that, and that's kind of one of the things that I like to do writing too, because it's fun to play those songs live. Like people, you just see them laugh. You play some sad song and then you bust into one of those, and everybody just kind of smiles and chuckles.
That's so right, though. And what you were saying, I feel like nowadays when you listen to the radio or you're going through a playlist or something like that, there are so many songs that have a similar meaning, a similar topic, similar chord structure. Like it's just, I don't know, some stuff's just kind of like skimming the surface as far as like depth and as far as like really good quality, So I will say both of these songs for you really did kind of like strike a chord for me, because I was like, wow, okay, this is very different. The versatility is just something to really watch. And like you were saying with Honkiest of Tonkers, it's it's one of those songs that brings forth a little bit of nostalgia for me, like with older country. Like it's one of those that like you automatically like feel familiar with, and so I don't know. I thought it was great.
I love to
And
hear
then
that. It's one of my
yeah,
favorites, honestly. It's just fun,
yeah. And I see why you made that the title track for your upcoming album release. Listeners out there, Garrett is releasing a two-part album, Honkiest of Tonkers, which the first part releases on February 21st.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, how long has this project been in the making?
I mean, I guess you would say years. I've been releasing music. I mean, I released some singles in 2024, but
Yeah.
some of these songs, it's really a mixture, combination of. I say I moved to Nashville. I got a place in Nashville. I spent about half my
Mm-hmm.
time there and half my time back here in Texas.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of do a blend of the songs that I did and recorded back here, and some of them are, like 2 or 3 years old, and then also some of the really fresh and new stuff that I've been working on. So, like the single
Mm-hmm.
"Watching You Burn," that was a song that I wrote and recorded in the last less than a year ago. From the
Wow.
time we wrote
Mm-hmm.
it, so it's really, and all the singles are kind of like that. Um, I think the next one is called "Do You." It's coming out in a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks, and then there's one called "Bad Girl Good," and
Mm-hmm.
"Treating a Bad Girl Good," and it's all of those are like really fresh songs. So I wanted to kind of put some on there that I've been playing out live for a while and that people already love. There's a couple on there that have already been released that I wanted to
Yeah.
just put onto the album because I thought it was a
Mm-hmm.
good statement on my sound and to show both sides of it, and also. Um, I wanted to have all my songs together in one, or a lot of them together in one place, because on sometimes the streaming platforms, if you release singles, some of them can just slip through the cracks, and if they're not in your
Right.
top 3 or 4 songs, nobody ever sees them.
Yeah,
So having them
exactly.
all on one album, I thought would be helpful for that.
It's funny you say that because I I find that with artists, if they release multiple singles back to back to back to back to back, and then like it never winds up on a project, sometimes they get missed, and sometimes they're some of the
Yeah,
best songs because it's like you want to release it as a single, you want to share it with the world as soon as you
right.
can, but at this, I don't know. I'm with you. I'm so glad that you're throwing this all on one big mega album,
Yes, ma'am.
releasing in two separate parts. I think that's a great idea too, because then it really just kind of reveals the whole collection and everything that you've been working on, and really more of your stylistic ways, your versatility, all that. I think that's a really good way to sum you up in this album.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's my first album. It's my first actual album, so that's kind of
Wow.
why I wanted it to be some of the stuff that a few of the songs that people had already heard, and
Yeah.
then quite a bit of new stuff too. So
Yeah. Ambitious is the word I'm looking for with
ambitious.
releasing a two-part album. I think that's awesome for a debut. I mean, that's really cool because it's like you give the people what they want, and then they wait a little bit longer, and then they get a little bit more of it, and it's like, wow, now they're hooked. You know what I mean? That's
If I
genius.
can get their
Genius.
attention, I want to give them plenty of music. I don't want them to have to go somewhere else.
That's right. That's right. Well, and so we talked about, you just said plenty of music. That just gave me the next little thing I wanted to ask you about was your single that was released on Yellowstone.
This way of
We
life.
have
Yes, ma'am.
This Way of Life. Exactly. And I feel like that's been a really big song for you. The show Yellowstone itself is just, wow. I mean, it's really, it's really taken like the whole country, the whole world by storm, just kind of showing this beautiful way of living that not a lot of people get to experience anymore. Um, Tell me, I want to talk a little bit about this single. So, again, this probably seems like a very personal song to you. Tell me, how did that writing process go? How long did it take you to write the song from beginning to end?
Well, that one actually came pretty quick. I think maybe because it is so personal.
Mm-hmm.
But so I met Taylor Sheridan. He moved 5 miles down the road from where our place, my home place, where the ranch where I grew up at in Weatherford.
That's
And
crazy. Oh my gosh.
yeah, and he hired me to come do some work on his ranch, and we became
Wow.
right when he moved there, and we became really good friends. And it
Oh.
was during season 1 of Yellowstone, so it wasn't as big as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But he figured out that I played music, and he would have me bring my guitar over and play when he'd have people over. It was cool. I got to meet like the actors and stuff.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then eventually we're sitting on his porch one day, and he was like, "I got this idea for this song." He said, "I've given it to a few people," and he mentioned them, and that made me really nervous because they were people that I definitely heard of. He's like, "I didn't like anything they came up with," and I was like, "Oh no, I don't stand a chance. If those guys couldn't do it, I don't know." And he said, "I want this song for this scene in the show. I'm trying to find a song that fits it about the Western way of life and how it appears like it could be dying or declining, but it's not. There's still a lot of people in it, and
Yeah.
it's just changing." And he said, "I think if anybody could write it, you can because you understand it." And I said, "Well, all right, I'll think about it." And Taylor's very, I mean, he's a perfectionist, which is, I think, why his shows do so well. So I was like, if I'm going to send him something, it better be good. And it took me about
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, and I sent it to him on a Wednesday, and he called me, or I sent him on Tuesday. He called me the next day and said, "We're going to use this song on Sunday, buddy." And it was a
Ooh.
recording that I had made just in the barn out here. I've got a little studio in our barn. I have a little video of my little studio up on Instagram and stuff, but
Wow.
just an acoustic vocal. And it was right after I wrote it. I wrote it in an evening, and then I did a little demo to send to him to see if he liked it. And the little demo ended up being on the show.
Wow. Oh my gosh. But and that was one of the notes that I made about the song when I was listening to it is the raw, vulnerable quality of just the acoustic version. Like now that I know it was a demo track, I mean that makes a lot of sense. But it lends itself, like it makes it so much more authentic, I think, which is probably why he was all about it and wanted to use it in the show.
I would have probably messed it up. It goes back to, if I can mess things up in a hurry if I get in my head about them. But if he'd have left it up to me, I would have probably gone and overproduced it and wanted it to sound like this huge track. And I think what I learned from that is you're right. With certain songs, and obviously it really helps when it's on the biggest show in the country. But it gets in front of a lot more people. But that's one of the most common things I hear from people is they're like, "Man, I love that's exactly the word they use. It's like, I love how raw it is." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, it's definitely raw because I had just written the song." So it's been really cool to learn that, and to see. I think it speaks to, like, it's about it reminded me that at the end of the day, it's about the song.
Right.
The Everything else is great, the promotion, the production, but if the song's there, you'll be all right, And I think that's what I learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just what a small world this is for him to like move down the road from you essentially. Like that is just the coolest thing. And that's I mean, hate to get I don't hate to, but like it's part of my soul. I love that like God has a plan. You know what I mean? I
Yes, he
think
does.
in everything that we do in this life, it's like we can have an idea and then he's gonna drop something in our lap and it's just gonna work out. And I think this is one of those
Yeah.
times.
I could have never planned that out. It's funny, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I think it was most certainly a God thing because,
Hmm.
yeah, I've been playing music and trying to think of ways to, get out there for years and had my own plans, and then it just fell in my lap. And I can't take as much credit for that as the good Lord can because I didn't have anything to do with it. I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yep. And sometimes that's all it takes. That's
Yes,
all it takes. Well, okay. So knowing the successes you've had with that song, and I'm assuming, is it going on the album? I
yes,
haven't
ma'am,
even,
it is. It's going to be on
yes.
part two.
Okay. Part two. Okay, great. So the listeners can hear the single now, obviously. Did
Yes,
you
ma'am.
re-record it or are you just taking it as is the way you
We
had it
did
on Yellowstone?
re-record it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's still just acoustic and a vocal, but
Pretty.
I just wanted to redo it a little bit, and I played it a little bit quicker this time. Whenever I first write a song, I always play them so slow, and that's what ended up on the show. And I can't say anything because it worked. So I'm just glad it got on there. But yeah, and I had just literally written the song, an hour before, so I play, in my mind, I play it a lot better now. I play it a lot more confidently now. So I wanted to re-record it. And I think, but I think it goes back to what you're saying. I think there's something. I mean, it's just a God thing, but the way that recording came out and how it worked for the scene in the show and stuff, I think it was
Mhm.
really perfect for what it needed to be at the time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I was so hesitant when he first asked me, we're gonna put it on the show, and I'm like, this is my first debut thing. And then he told me how much they're gonna pay me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, yes, that's just fine."
Yes,
You
that is
can
a
put up
win.
whatever you want to put on there for that price. So.
That is a win. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yes, ma'am.
and that's no, and that's such a beautiful thing too, because you think about like you were just talking about how long you've been working at this and how long you've been going at it, and then something finally clicks. I mean, that's oh gosh, that's got to feel so good, you know?
It was
Finally,
such
all your efforts.
Yeah, it was such a cool feeling. I mean, if anything, it made me really start taking this seriously. I mean, I've always just loved to write and play,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've always been just as serious about it as I am now. It's my favorite thing to do in the world. But as far as like actually putting myself out there as an artist
Mm-hmm.
and pursuing it and having that confidence in myself, like Taylor Sheridan was a huge part of coming at he came into my life at a time when I really needed that, and he kind
Mm.
of helped me see, hey, you can do this, and it. I'll always be grateful to him for that because he really took a lot of time and gave me a lot of pep talks over those few years, and it was pretty powerful to me. It was a life changing experience,
Yeah. All it takes is one person to believe, you know, and
Yeah,
it's it's all about who you know, and it's all about in God's time. That's how I feel, especially with the music industry. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So talk to me about this too. Because you were just saying that you had been writing and playing and kind of doing your thing for such a long time. I'd love to know when you decided to start doing, writing and playing and making this career for yourself.
Yeah, it's so first started singing in children's choir at church. My mama
Aw.
enrolled me when I was about 5, and I did that up until they kicked me out until I was too old. But I had never, I didn't even really think about going out and playing or like I say, I was raised on a ranch, and like everybody I'm around is either a horse trainer or a cattleman or something like that. So
Hmm.
I just kind of figured, well, I'll either do that or I'll go to college and maybe get an ag degree or something like that.
Hmm.
But when I was about 12 years old, a guy named Dan Roberts moved to town, and Dan, as a songwriter, he wrote like Beaches of Cheyenne with Garth Brooks and just some
Wow.
awesome songs. And his son was my age and ended up in my class at school, and we became best
Cool.
friends. And I went over there, and his dad would be sitting around playing guitar and writing songs, and I was just like, "This is amazing." I'd just sit there and watch it, and I would
Oh.
ask him, "You think I could do that?" And he said, "Yeah, you got to learn how to play guitar." So I learned how to play guitar, and then I asked him, "Well, how do I write a song?" He's like, "Well, you just start writing words down, to music." And I was like, "Okay." And I'd bring him songs, and he would always be like, "That's all right, Garrett, but I think you can do one a little bit better. Write me another
Ooh,
one.
okay.
Write me another
Setting the
one. Write me."
challenge.
And really looking back, it's really cool. With a little more maturity and stuff, looking at how he was mentoring me
Hmm.
and encouraging me to actually get good at it instead of just being like, "Oh, that's great." Because sometimes with kids, it's easy to just be like, "Oh, perfect."
Good job. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And he would tell me good job for sure, but he would also be like, "I think you can do better. I think you can do better." And then
Mm.
he would end up, I guess about the time when I was around 17, I was still in high school. I would get out and play open mics just anywhere I could, flea markets, the Weatherford
Hmm.
flea market, all kinds of stuff. And then after I did that for a little while, my senior year, Dan started taking me and letting me open for him. And
Wow.
that was, I still can't believe he did that because looking back, I was like, man, that was some real charity work right there. I was very green back then, but it's so cool that he took me along, and that's where I kind of got a taste for it. And ever since then, I was in one way or another. There was a lot of times that I didn't know if I would, especially in that time, like 10 years ago, uh, the resurgence of traditional country music that we're seeing today hadn't quite happened yet. So
Right.
my whole life growing up, pretty much, that I can remember listening to the radio, a lot of it was more the pop country, bro country, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't even. I was like, well, that's not what I do, so I'm going to be limited, and I'll just play around here and enjoy it. And maybe one of these days, country will be cool again. And it seems like that might be happening now. So
It's coming back.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and you say that, and I hear you, because it's like, I don't know. There was a whole period of time there where like it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say uncool, but like I'm from a small town. Like you
yeah.
would think that the people that I went to school with, the people I grew up with would listen to country music, but that was like not the case. I don't
No,
get it because it was like it was not a cool thing for a long time.
I,
But now, yeah, it seems like there's so many different offerings, different genres within the genre that like really just make the genre as a whole so much more, I don't know, encompassing in it, just well-rounded is a better way to say it, I guess. Just it's
yeah.
nice to see so many variations of country and still be within that same genre, that same box.
100%. And being from
Yeah.
Texas, like we've always had here in Texas, at least all of my whole lifetime, had our
Mhm.
own kind of scene here, the
Yeah.
Texas scene, and it's a little more eclectic, a little more diverse than, especially at that time, than what I was hearing on the radio coming from Nashville. There's
Hmm.
stuff that's just pretty much straight up rock. There's things that are
Yeah.
very traditional country that you would hear
Hmm.
on the Texas stations. So I'm real thankful that I was fortunate enough to be born in Texas and come up around here because there's such a cool scene and you get to hear a lot of different things and really kind of experiment and figure out who you are and a lot of places to play too. And moving
That's
to
great.
Nashville up there, I meet people from other states, and I never realized that most states aren't like it is here. I mean, there's not four places in every little town that have live music. There's a lot of people
Wow.
that I've met from certain, Indiana or Washington State or something, and they literally had to move just to be able to play shows. Had to
Yeah.
move to Nashville, so it made me
Wow.
be really grateful for the Texas scene.
Yeah. Well, and we talked a little bit about your move to Nashville before we got on the call. You talked to me about how you have so many shows and so many things planned for Nashville because I was asking about if you have a tour set up to promote the album that you have coming up. Let the listeners know what's going on for the next
Yeah,
couple months as far as tour dates, show dates. I'm sure they would love to get out and see you.
absolutely. I'm going to
Yeah.
be in Nashville. Check all my socials because I don't have them right
Mhm.
in front of me, but I'm playing 3 or 4 songwriters rounds. I'm playing, I think, 4 rounds in February. I'm doing a thing at CRS Country Radio Seminar, which
Fun.
that's kind of
Yes.
like an industry event. But if anybody
Yep.
listening is going to be at CRS, I'll definitely be there.
I'll
And
be there.
heck yeah, we got to hang out. I want to meet
I
you.
know. Yes, that really, we at least a photo op or something. I'm sure you'll be super busy,
Absolutely.
but I would love to meet you. Yes. Keep going. Keep going.
No, I did. And one of the things I'm most excited about this summer, I'll be playing a lot back here in Texas this summer. But one of the things I'm most excited about is I'm going to be playing at CMA Fest, which is super exciting. Hearing that at Chief.
Yay.
We're
Hmm.
doing Aristo PR, who have been helping me promote this record. Christy over there, who's become one of my best friends. We're doing a Texas stage at Chiefs during CMA Fest, and we're going to call it
That's
Turn It
amazing.
Up Texas. And it's going to be all Texas artists. And I don't know if there's ever been anything done like that at CMA Fest, but we hatched that little idea together, and I'm like really excited because I think I'm going to get to bring some people up there and get them some exposure up there. Some guys that I know back here that I think are just super talented, and haven't quite broken into that
Yeah.
national thing yet. And
Hmm.
it's going to be really cool. I'm almost even more excited. I'm excited to play there myself for sure, but I'm also
Yeah.
really excited to be able to bring a bunch of my friends up there too for 3 days. It's going to be fun.
Have fun. Yes, CMA Fest is always a great time. And I was just about to say, I don't think I've seen any like set apart, separate thing from like the regular lineups of CMA Fest, just to highlight specific artists from an area, you know, especially like
Yes, ma'am.
Texas. You have so many fantastic artists out of Texas. Like, that's such a great idea. I'm going to have to come check it out for sure.
You got to come by, come hang out. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to Christy because I love working with her and Aristo PR. They are awesome. Oh my
I
gosh.
call her 24 karat Christy because I say everything she touches turns to gold.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you are so right about that. So
She's
right
a
about
good
that.
one.
Yes. Okay, Garrett. I've loved having you on the call today. And we've talked a lot about the two-part album. We talked a little bit about you touring around and playing shows. Is there anything that you would like to promote or anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before we hop off the call today?
Oh, I can think of a few people, but I'll think of three real quick. My homegirl, Juliana Rankin, she's one of my best friends, and she is so
Oh,
talented, and she's about to have a huge announcement with
yeah.
a certain label that just popped up here in Texas that has ties to Nashville. And
Ooh.
then I've got my buddy Rowdy Decker. He's phenomenal. He's from here. He lives in Brock, which is the next town over from where I'm
Oh,
from. And then my buddy Bubba Bellin, check him out too. Those are just three. I could go on all day, but those are some of my favorite artists, and I know them personally, and they're some of my favorite people too.
wow. That's awesome. I love shout outs for other artists because I think that's just the coolest thing. And then I go and I'm going to go research them and then probably get them on a call too. So thank you for
Heck
that.
yeah, they would be great. They would be awesome. They've all got stuff going on, and it's cool because they're some of my best friends, and we're all at like real similar stages in our career.
Wow.
With
Yeah.
in what the place we're at with music. So it's so cool to have people like that you can call and talk to and complain to sometimes or whatever we need to vent,
Vent.
whatever we need
Yes.
to do.
I totally get that. Oh my gosh. Listeners out there, Garrett Bradford just released a new single today, January 17th, called Watching You Burn, a part of his two-part album, Honkiest of Tonkers, that drops on the first part drops on February 21st. Y'all make sure that you go stream, go follow him on social media, because you are awesome, Garrett. Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. I'm such a fan. Such a
Thank you
fan.
so much for having me on. It's really been an honor. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And y'all heard about it here on Coda Country Chats. And have a great day. Thank you.